Most men over 50 are confident about one thing. They believe they would know, immediately, clearly, if a woman was interested in them. They picture it as something obvious, a direct compliment, a lingering touch, an invitation that leaves no room for misreading. The kind of signal you cannot miss, even if you try. The problem is, attraction among mature women almost never looks like that. Not because the interest is not there, but because a woman who has lived long enough to know real disappointment is not going to put herself in a vulnerable position without some protection. She is not going to announce her interest and wait to see what you do with it. She has been in that position before, and she remembers exactly how it felt. Instead, she does something quieter. She asks a question. A completely ordinary question, the kind you would answer at a dinner table without thinking twice. And while you are giving her a polite, practical response, while you are talking about something that seems to have nothing to do with attraction at all, she is learning everything she needs to know about you. Most men answer these questions and move on. They give accurate, honest, friendly replies. And the possibility quietly disappears. That is what this is about. Because once you understand what these questions are actually asking, not what they sound like, but what they mean, everything changes. Here is something worth understanding first. The way attraction is expressed changes with age, significantly. And most men have never stopped to think about this. When a woman is in her 20s, she may be direct, energetic, willing to take obvious risks. She has not yet collected enough disappointments to make her careful. But a woman in her 40s, 50s, or 60s has a different relationship with vulnerability. She has been hurt enough to be thoughtful. She knows what it feels like to show too much too soon and have it go wrong in a way that stayed with her longer than she expected. So she does not step forward and announce herself. She opens a door, just slightly, and she watches to see if you notice. If you step through, she opens it wider. If you do not, she closes it quietly, and neither of you acknowledges that it was ever there. That is not manipulation. That is maturity. It is the emotional intelligence that comes from experience. And it means the signals are real. They are just quieter than you have been taught to look for. Over the next few minutes, I want to walk you through 5 questions that mature women ask when they feel something but are not ready to say it outright. You have probably heard every one of these before. You answered them honestly. They sounded like small talk, like ordinary conversation filler, because that is exactly how they are designed to feel. The question sounds like one thing. The meaning is something else entirely. But now, you will understand what is actually being asked. Question 1. Are you close with your family? It sounds completely benign. She asks it easily, casually, the way someone might ask about the weather or where you grew up. You answer, "Yeah, I have 2 brothers. We stay in touch." And the conversation moves on to something else. But you just missed something important. She was not asking for family facts. She was mapping your emotional interior. She was trying to understand whether you are a man who builds lasting bonds, whether you carry warmth, loyalty, and the ability to stay connected to people who matter to you over years, not just months. Because a man who speaks about the people in his life with genuine feeling is telling her something important. He is telling her he is capable of depth. He is telling her that connection, for him, is not something that fades the moment life gets busy. That is exactly what she is trying to find out. The common mistake is to answer the surface of the question, short, factual, efficient, and then silence, as if the question has been fully handled. What she is waiting for is one real detail, one moment of warmth, something like, "My sister and I are very close. She is probably the person who knows me best. We talk at least once a week, have for years." That is all. One human layer, offered without being asked twice. And the whole conversation shifts. Her attention sharpens. Something in her relaxes. She asked about your family, but she was really asking whether you know how to stay. And that answer told her yes. Question 2. What do you do just for yourself? She asks it curiously, warmly, tilted slightly toward you. What do you actually enjoy? Like, just for you. And a lot of men go quiet. They shrug. Oh, I don't know. Not much. Work takes up most of it. Maybe a small, slightly apologetic smile, as if the absence of hobbies is something to be modest about. What she hears in that answer is not humility. What she hears is absence. Because this question is not about hobbies. It is not a survey about leisure activities. It is about whether you are still alive in the way that matters. Whether there is something burning inside you, something you chose, something that belongs to you and not to obligation. Whether spending time with you would feel like being pulled into a life that has texture and flavor, or simply passing time beside someone who stopped reaching for things a long time ago. When a mature woman asks this, she is looking for signs of self-possession. Signs that you have a life she could be invited into, not a vacancy she would be filling. The man who answers with one genuine, specific thing. I have been getting into cooking lately, actually. Started experimenting on weekends, and now it is the part of the week I most look forward to. Last month, I finally figured out how to make a proper risotto without ruining it. That man becomes interesting immediately. Not because cooking is impressive, not because she particularly cares about risotto, but because he knows himself. He reaches for things. He has something that is his. And that is exactly the kind of man she wants to know better. Question 3. Do you ever get lonely? Now we are somewhere different. Because this question, asked quietly, almost to herself, is not casual at all. She might slip it in mid-conversation, a small pause, a slightly softer tone. Do you ever get lonely? And most men tense up slightly. They hedge. Not really, I keep busy. Or they overcorrect. Yeah, honestly, all the time. Both answers miss what is actually happening. She is reaching across the space between you. She is checking whether you feel what she feels. Because she gets lonely too, not in a desperate way, but in the honest way that anyone with depth eventually does. The quiet evenings. The moments when something good happens and there is no one particular person you want to call first. She knows that feeling well, and she is looking to see whether you are secure enough and honest enough to acknowledge it. This is a vulnerability test, but not the kind designed to expose weakness, the kind designed to find safety. She is checking whether you are the kind of man she can be real with. The answer that opens something real sounds like this. Sometimes, yes, there is a kind of quiet that gets heavy after a while. But I have also learned to be comfortable on my own. That took time, honestly. I think the difference now is I am more careful about who I let into that space. Pause. Let that breathe. That answer does 3 things at once. It is honest. It shows you are secure enough to acknowledge imperfection without falling apart over it. And it signals, without stating it directly, that her being in that space would mean something, that the door is open, but not to just anyone. She asked if you get lonely. You showed her she matters. Question 4. Have you ever really been in love? Some questions sound light and still land somewhere deep. This is one of them. She asks it with genuine curiosity. Have you ever really been in love? Truly? And you feel the weight of it, even if it sounds soft. Men often deflect this one. They stay vague. I was in a long relationship for a while. Or they get slightly defensive. Why? Are you interviewing me? Both responses close a door she was trying to open, and they close it in a way that is difficult to reopen gracefully. She is not asking for your relationship history. She is not asking who you loved, or when, or what went wrong. She is asking whether you are still capable of it, whether what you have been through made you harder or simply wiser, whether your heart still has that kind of room in it, and whether the experiences that shaped you are things you carry like weight or like lessons. The answer that actually reaches her? Yes, and it taught me more about myself than anything else. I think you only really understand what you want after you have loved someone imperfectly and figured out what you would do differently. Honest, reflective, without bitterness or lingering grievance in the voice. She did not ask if you had loved before. She asked if you still could, whether there is still something alive in you that is capable of going there again. Show her the answer is yes, and mean it. Question 5. What are you actually looking for these days? This is the most direct of the indirect questions. She asks it easily, conversationally, almost as if the answer does not particularly matter to her personally. So, what are you looking for, like relationship-wise these days? And inside that question is everything. She is not asking philosophically. She is not filling silence or making conversation. She is asking whether there is room, right now, in your actual life, for someone like her. She is not asking you to declare feelings you do not have. She is giving you one of the most honest openings she will offer, and she is watching to see whether you walk through it or quietly close it. Most men close it without realizing. I'm not really sure, honestly. Or, I've been burned before, so I'm just taking things slow. Or the one that ends more conversations than any other single phrase. Just seeing what happens. Every one of those answers signals the same thing to her. There is no room here. Not because of the specific words, but because of the energy beneath them. Guarded, half present, unavailable in a way that is dressed up as openness, but is really its opposite. She does not need certainty from you. She does not need a timeline or a plan or a declaration. She needs to feel possibility. She needs to hear something like, something real. I am past the point of wanting things that are half committed or deliberately complicated. I want something that actually means something. Someone I can be genuinely present with. Simple, warm, true, forward-facing. In that answer, she hears something she has not heard in a while. She hears, I am available. I am open. And I have the self-awareness to say so without making it dramatic. And she thinks, quietly to herself, maybe on the way home later, that is exactly the kind of man I was hoping to meet. So let me bring this together. Because there is a pattern running through every single one of these questions. Everyone sounds like something else. Are you close with your family? Sounds like small talk. What do you do for yourself? Sounds like a lifestyle question. Do you ever get lonely? Sounds like a philosophical aside. Have you ever really been in love? Sounds like idle curiosity. What are you looking for? Sounds like casual conversation between two people who are simply getting to know each other. None of them are casual. Each one is a small act of courage. Because for a woman who has lived long enough to know real disappointment, putting herself out there directly carries a risk she is not willing to take without some signal that the door is open. She cannot afford to be obvious and wrong. So instead, she sends a quiet signal. She opens a door, just a crack, and she waits to see whether you notice and whether you step through it with warmth. The men who walk through those doors, warmly, confidently, without making a performance of it, those are the men she thinks about later. Those are the men she mentions to a close friend the next day. Not because they were charming in some practiced, polished way, but because they were present. Because they heard what was actually being said. The mistake is not lack of interest on your part. The mistake is that you are answering the wrong question. You hear, are you close with your family? And you answer the family question. You hear, do you ever get lonely? And you answer the loneliness question. You give the practical, polite response, and you move on. and she moves on with you in the wrong direction. Here is what I want you to carry with you. Attraction after 50 is not loud. It does not arrive with obvious signs or unmistakable gestures. It arrives in the spaces between sentences, in questions that sound ordinary but linger a moment longer than they need to, in the way she tilts slightly toward you when she asks, in the way she waits for your answer with just a little more attention than the question seems to warrant. A half second of quiet anticipation that most men never notice. These questions are invitations, wrapped in the language of ordinary conversation, because that is the only language that feels safe enough to use. And what she is looking for, in every single one of them, is the same thing. A man who is present, honest without being heavy, grounded without being closed. Someone who can meet her small act of courage with warmth and quiet confidence, who does not need her to be obvious, because he is paying close enough attention to notice what is already there, who understands that real connection is not always announced. Sometimes it is offered, gently, in the form of a question that sounds like nothing. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to have everything prepared in advance. You just have to be paying attention. Because when you catch that quiet signal and meet it with genuine warmth and a little honesty, the conversation deepens in a way that neither of you quite planned for. And those are the conversations that change things. The opportunity was there the whole time. You are just learning to see it now. And that changes something, starting with the very next conversation you have. Listen a little closer. There is more being said than you think. If something here stayed with you, subscribe. This channel exists for exactly this reason, to give you the kind of clarity that makes mature connection feel real and possible and worth reaching for. Every week there is something new about female psychology, emotional awareness, attraction, and what actually creates meaningful connection later in life. No manipulation, no formulas, just honest insight, delivered quietly, for the men who are paying attention. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. And if this felt like something someone you know needs to hear, share it. Because there are a lot of men out there answering the wrong question and missing moments that matter. You are not one of them anymore. I will see you in the next one.